The millionaire farmer stuns the community when his humble origins are finally uncovered. Chapter 1. The Mysterious Beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning, while outside, the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down the spine. Something was undeniably wrong, a hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation as unexplained lights danced in the darkness, and the townsfolk's hushed rumors spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled the reader deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. James Carter, the renowned wealthy farmer of Willow Creek, had shocked everyone with his untimely passing. He had been a titan, a man whose wealth was whispered about in awe, yet strangely, no one knew much about where he truly came from. The community adored him, but beneath their admiration lay a current of unease. How could a man from such humble origins rise to such heights? It seemed almost unnatural. Curiosity buzzed in the air like a swarm of bees, each fact more unusual than the last. Tales of James's childhood spun between neighbors, tales of silent nights in foster care, scrounging for food, and dreams of one day owning land. What had propelled him to abandon those earlier years? As the townsfolk gathered to celebrate his life, the atmosphere was thick with a mix of admiration and sorrow. Faces turned glum as Emily strode into the heart of those mourning her brother. Her entrance shifted the dynamic entirely. Emily, the estranged sister from Brookfield, carried with her the weight of memories, painful reminders of abandonment, and a longing she had tried to bury. Many whispered her name like a talisman, linked to the shadows that clung to James's legacy. Claiming her inheritance was a harrowing endeavor. It wasn't just about the land. It was about confronting the ghosts of their past. Each step she took through the grand farmhouse revealed secrets long buried, unraveling the carefully constructed facade of her brother. The photographs that adorned the walls depicted a smiling man who was a stranger to her. But the closer she looked, the more she saw unsettling connections between James's fortune and the notorious whispers of a criminal underworld. With each revelation, Emily's internal struggle intensified. Should she protect the brother she barely knew, a man loved by a community? Or should she unearth the truths that could rock their foundations? Tension mounted around her as James's elite friends encircled his legacy, fiercely denying the growing whispers that threatened to spill into daylight. Emily confronted his closest confidants, each denial sharper than the last, filling the air with restless energy. A chilling question screamed through her mind. When is loyalty and silence more dangerous than the truth? Standing before an old family photograph, its cracked frame a stark reflection of their fractured relationship, Emily found her heart racing as thunder rumbled outside. In that moment of stillness, the doorbell rang unexpectedly, sending a shock of uncertainty through her. Who could it be? And what news could they bring that might change everything? The doorbell echoed through the silence like a gunshot, sending a tremor all the way through Emily. She blinked, heart racing, as she stepped away from the battered photograph. It felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. Who could be standing on the other side? Taking a breath that felt too tight, she walked slowly to the door. Every step was heavy, dread pooling in her stomach. Her hand trembled slowly as she reached for the knob. It clicked open, and the door creaked past, revealing a shadowy figure outlined by the porch light. Emily! The voice was hesitant, fragile like a spider's web. She gasped, recognizing it instantly. Daniel? Her breath caught in her throat. Daniel was the last person she expected to see. He was her brother's former best friend, a man she hadn't seen since childhood. Emotions swirled, confusion flooded her. Can we talk? His eyes were wide, reflecting. A mix of fear and urgency. There was something in his gaze that sent chills down her spine. Without waiting for an answer, he stepped inside, the door whispering shut behind him, sealing them in. As he leaned against the wall, his expression twisted into a grimace. I wouldn't have come if it wasn't important. You need to know the truth about James. About James? Tears pricked her eyes. Each mention of her brother felt like a dagger to her heart. What do you mean? I just want to understand him. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. It's not what you think. He wasn't just a farmer. He was involved in things. Dangerous things. Each word fell like a stone, heavy with implications. What do you mean? Her heart pounded, almost drowning out his voice. What could be more dangerous than farming? Do you remember those weird lights at night? He hesitated, swallowing hard. The ones people whispered about? Those weren't just stories. James was mixed up with, well, let's just say he had connections you'd never suspect. Her breath hitched. Connections? With who? But before he could answer, a crash shattered the air outside. Emily's heart thudded painfully in her chest. She rushed to the window, peering through the glass. A dark vehicle skidded to a halt, men leaping out, as if they were in a movie. They moved like shadows, darting toward the farmhouse, faces obscured. Panic surged. Who were they? Why were they here? They're coming. For you. Daniel's voice broke through the chorus of chaos. You need to get out of here. It's not just about me, she shouted, but his eyes were wide, filled with fear. The door slammed behind them, and the men burst in, their faces now visible, cold and menacing. One step forward, pointing a finger with an authority that sent icy shivers down her spine. Where is she? He demanded, gaze locking on Emily. As the tension thickened, Emily's mind raced. Why did they want her? Daniel stepped in front of her, shielding her from the intruders. Stay away from her, he yelled, his voice thick with urgency. In a split second, the world spun. The room tilted dangerously as Emily's heart leapt. Into her throat, memories of her brother flickered in her mind. His laughter, his gentle hugs, the life she thought they might have shared. And now, it all crumbled. What do you want? She cried, breath short and rapid. The men exchanged dark glances. This is bigger than you know, Emily. Much bigger. Emily felt the weight of every decision press down on her. The truth about her brother was no longer a quiet mystery. It was a storm. It was chaos. And as the stakes rose, one thought clawed at her insides. What if James's past was far darker than she dared to believe? What had he really done? As panic ignited around them, Emily was left trembling, her world shattering again. And, worse yet, she had no idea what it all meant for her. The tension in the room was suffocating. Emily stood frozen, her heart racing, while the men in the doorway loomed over her like dark specters. Daniel's protective stance barely hid the fear etched across his face. "What do you want?" Emily repeated, her voice shaky but defiant. "Where is she?" the man at the front barked, eyes gleaming with a cold intensity that sent shivers down Emily's spine. "We know she's here. Leave her alone," Daniel shouted, fists clenched at his sides. Emily sensed his desperation, the way his body shook, but her own fear was consuming. Suddenly, a loud smash echoed from behind them, sending all heads snapping in the direction of the kitchen. A figure burst in, his silhouette imposing against the dim light. "Get away from her!" The voice was unmistakable, deep and commanding. "Jackson!" Emily gasped, recognizing her brother's former business partner and the man she had believed to be at a safe distance. His presence should have brought comfort, but instead, only confusion mounted. "Run!" he yelled, rushing toward her. He pushed Emily behind him, eyeing the intruders like a hawk. "You don't want to do this. Trust me." The chilling tension thickened. The men exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering across their faces. Then, without warning, one of them lunged forward, and a struggle erupted. The room exploded in chaos. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. She clutched Daniel's arm, heart pounding. She had to know. "What's happening?" "Not now," Daniel barked as he evaded a punch aimed at his face. But chaos took hold. The sound of fists meeting flesh and grunts filled the air, overlapping with the clatter of chairs toppling over. And then, something shifted. A loud crash came from the back door, and another shadow entered the fray. A woman, wild-eyed and breathless, her hair tousled and clothing disheveled. In her hand was something small but deadly. A gun. "Stop!" Her voice sliced through the noise like glass breaking. Everyone froze. What in the hell is going on here? In that moment, recognition dawned. Emily's breath caught in her throat. "Tina, how are you?" But Tina's eyes were glazed with panic. "I need—" She faltered, eyes darting from each man to Daniel, then landing on Emily. "You're in danger, Em. You have to listen." "From what?" Emily was overwhelmed. Her world felt like it was collapsing. Tina's gaze sharpened, narrowing in on the dark figures. James? He wasn't just a farmer. He was part of something bigger, something criminal. If they find you, they'll do terrible things. A loud thud against the wall startled everyone. The intruders were regrouping, eyes narrowed. Focus sharp. The atmosphere buzzed with impending violence. "Now," Jackson urged, pushing Emily toward the back door, but her feet wouldn't move. "We need to go, now!" Before she could respond, another loud crash rang out from the front, and suddenly the room exploded with blinding light. Floodlights pierced through the windows. "Get down!" Daniel shouted, shoving Emily low to the ground just as the door burst open. Police officers stormed in, yells and commands echoing in the cabin. But as the chaos unfolded, Emily's attention was drawn to something on the ground. The glint of metal, half hidden underneath a fallen chair. A badge. A police badge. Her mind raced. Wait, what? Before she could understand, hands grabbed her, yanking her back into the growing storm. "Stay here," Daniel ordered. But all she could do was stare at the badge, dread pooling in her stomach. Suddenly she realized, in that moment, everything she thought she knew was about to be turned upside down. The men weren't just intruders. They had connections, dark ties that ran deep. And her brother's legacy wasn't just a story of farming, but a sinister web of deception. As the room spiraled into a frantic blur, one question echoed above all else. Who could she really trust? As Emily stared at the badge, confusion and fear twisted inside her. Was it even real? Was she tangled in a web spun from James's secrets? Shouts and scuffles erupted around her, growing in volume and intensity. The chaos enveloped her. The sounds of crashing furniture and raised voices echoing in her mind like a terrible symphony. "Get down!" Daniel pulled her further behind Jackson. She could feel his heartbeat racing, a frantic drumbeat against her back. But everything felt distant, like she was underwater, unable to make sense of the turmoil unfolding around her. "Who are they?" she muttered, her eyes darting between Daniel and Jackson, who were braced for battle. The intruders, too, seemed confused, their confidence wavering as the police entered. And then, in the middle of this storm, everything stopped. Tina's voice cut through the chaos again. "They have a mole!" The room fell silent, the impact of her words hanging heavy in the air, like smoke. No one moved. Eyes widened, hearts stuttered. "What?" Emily gasped, her mind racing. "A mole? What did that even mean?" Tina took a step forward, her gun wavering slightly. "James, it's all connected. They're not after just you. They think you know where." "It is. Where what is?" Emily's voice trembled, but she couldn't tear her gaze away from the glimmering badge on the floor. Everything felt wrong. Before she could process, a sharp laugh sliced through the tension. "We're not here for her," one of the men sneered, leaning against the wall casually. "We're here for the backup. That's right, the backup." "Backup?" Emily's voice was barely a whisper, a flickering candle in a storm. In an instant, she felt as if the ground had been swept from beneath her. The depth of the situation clawed at her insides. Suddenly, the front door burst open again, and a tall figure stepped in. Rain slicked his coat, his face partially hidden by the hood. "You're too late," he shouted. "I already have it." "What?" The word erupted from Emily. The intensity of it all narrowed her vision. Before she could process who it was, the figure yanked back his hood. It was her brother, James. "You?" Her heart plummeted. The brother she had mourned, now standing before her. But there was something different. His eyes burned with an intensity she had never seen. "Surprise!" James grinned, but the look didn't reach his eyes. They were cold, calculating, like a snake watching its prey. "I've been watching." "What are you talking about?" Daniel shouted, rage boiling over. "You think just showing up will fix this?" Emily felt the world spin. The reality of it hit her, waves crashing against her chest. James wasn't the victim. He was the mastermind. The pieces fell together like a broken puzzle, sharp edges stabbing her heart. "No!" she cried, shaking her head. "You're lying! You can't be!" But James stepped forward, the room closing in around them. "All those stories, the rumors, they're true. What you don't understand is that I was never just a farmer. I was merely playing a part." Emily stumbled back, breath hitching. "Why? Why did you leave me?" Without answering, James lowered his voice, eerie like a whisper in the dark. "They think you're the one who knows where it is. You have to come with me now, Emily. Trust me, it's the only way to survive." As panic washed over her, she sensed everything she believed crackling like dry leaves underfoot. Could she trust him? Her heart raced, fighting against the instinct to flee. But as the tension flared again, with officers rushing forward and Daniel holding his ground, one question stabbed deeper. "What's it?" The words stumbled from her lips, heavy with dread. James smirked, his eyes glinting with unshed secrets. "You'll find out soon enough. But we don't have much time." As the shadows shifted, fear gripped Emily. Her brother was here, but who was he really? The truth seemed a dark chasm opening beneath her. What if everything she fought— As emotions churned like a storm, she was left with a terrifying thought. Could her own flesh and blood be her greatest enemy? Emily stared at her brother, her heart racing. James's face was a mix of fear and defiance. The chaos in the room swirled around her, but all she could focus on was the man she thought she'd lost forever. "James, you can't just walk in here like this," she shouted, panic creeping in. "What are you doing?" Before he could answer, a nearby officer stepped forward, gun raised. "Freeze! Get on the ground!" With swift motion, James raised his hands, but there was no fear in his eyes, only calculation. "I'm not your enemy," he shouted, but the urgency in his voice felt rehearsed, hollow. Emily felt a tightness in her chest, desperation twisting her gut. She wanted to believe him, but something told her this wasn't the brother she remembered. "You've been lying to me. All this time. Who are you really?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pointed toward the back door, where another dark shape lingered, just outside of view. "We need to go. Now!" The intruders were recovering quickly, eyes darting from James to the police. One of them growled, "You have no idea what you're messing with, Carter. You think you can just unscrew the lid on this can?" "What do you mean?" Emily gasped. Panic rushed through her. "Tell me, what's happening?" But just then, the figure in the doorway stepped forward, and Emily's breath caught. It was another woman. She was tall, with an air of confidence that felt completely out of place among the chaos. "Stop! You're too late, James!" "Leah!" James's voice dropped, an unexpected weight behind the name. "Leave now! This isn't your fight." Emily felt as if she had been plunged underwater. Leah was someone she'd never met, but the way James flinched told her everything. "Who are you?" Suddenly, Leah pulled something from her jacket, a small device, almost like a detonator. The air felt electric, and the loud beeping that erupted made everyone freeze. "I'm here to finish what we started." "Finish what?" Emily cried, her mind swirling. "What is going on? What do you all want?" "From me?" Leah smiled, but it wasn't a comforting smile. It was a sinister curve of the lips that sent chills down Emily's spine. You really don't know, do you? You'll figure it out soon enough, especially if James doesn't come with me. James's face twisted in disbelief. Leah, no! We can talk about this. Talk? You wanted this, James. You played the game. She pressed the dial on the device, and suddenly the lights flickered, buzzing ominously. I'll expose everything you've done. Then, without warning, a bright flash erupted from the device, engulfing the room in blinding light. Emily shielded her eyes, heart hammering. Was it a bomb? Panic tightened around her throat as shadows danced and screamed, falling over one another in the chaos. The light faded, revealing the room transformed. The police officers were frozen, expressions perplexed and terrified. But the air shifted. It was heavier, filled with secrets she couldn't grasp. "What did you do?" Emily asked, breathless. "What just happened?" As the dust began to settle, James's expression hardened. "Leah, you know we can't go back. You're crossing lines we can't uncross." But before Leah could respond, a figure appeared from behind her. An older man with a piercing gaze that felt too familiar. It was Arthur, someone Emily had only heard whispers about, a name tied to James's darker dealings. "You all thought you were so clever." Her world tilted. "Arthur? You were a partner?" But the reality shattered like glass underfoot as her mind raced. Suddenly, James's alliance came into question. Everything twisted around her like a taut rope about to snap. "They're coming for you, Emily," Arthur said, voice low and menacing. "You think you can hide in the truth? This is far from over." With that, the police snapped back to life, confusion painting their faces. Shots were fired, and suddenly, Emily knew this wasn't just about James's past. It was about her destiny, tangled up in a sinister web she never asked to be a part of. The truth felt like a heavy weight on her chest, choking her. Who was she anymore? She turned to Daniel, who looked just as lost. "What do we do?" But the question lingered in the air, unanswered and heavy. The room trembled with uncertainty. As the fog of betrayal thickened, one thought locked in her mind. Was it already too late to unravel the truth? Emily's breath hitched in her throat. Everything felt unreal, like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. James stood there, his presence heavy and cold. Her heart raced as Leah's device continued to beep ominously, each sound scraping the edges of her sanity. "James," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" "I didn't want to involve you," he said, his eyes dark and deep, like storm clouds ready to unleash their fury. "But it's too late." "Too late for what?" Emily shouted, anger mixing with fear. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, a loud voice cut through the tension. "Back away from her!" One of the police officers came forward, gun fixed firmly on James. The room held its collective breath. "Hands where we can see them." "Don't do this!" James barked, but his voice was edged with something other than fear. Defiance, maybe. But before anyone could react, there was a sudden flash, a blinding light that swallowed the room whole. Noise erupted, screams blending into an unbearable cacophony. The air crackled, and in an instant, Emily felt a sharp pain in her chest, as if the world had been pulled away, leaving her gasping. When the light faded, Emily blinked, disoriented. The room was different. The shadows shifted, and for a moment, she couldn't comprehend what had changed. Then she felt it. A massive weight crash onto her, like a tidal wave breaking over her head. Where was James? James, she cried, panic surging through her veins. But he wasn't there. The space where he had stood moments ago was empty. Eyes darting around, she caught sight of Daniel, sprawled on the floor, his face pale and unmoving. No! A scream clawed its way out of her throat. She surged forward, but someone grabbed her arm. Don't. It was Jackson. His eyes were wide, filled with horror. You can't. We need to get out. Out? Daniel, he... Her voice trembled, the weight of reality crashing down. You need to help him. But the urgency in Jackson's gaze was clear. We don't. Have time. We need to leave. Now. As if summoned by her fear, the room erupted in chaos again. The intruders had taken the opportunity to regroup, eyes focused on Emily with a hunger that sent shivers down her spine. No, she shouted, anguish pouring out of her. Why are you doing this? Because you're in the way, one of the dark figures snarled. But then, something unexpected happened. Leah pressed the device closer to her chest, her finger hovering over a button. For a heartbeat, everything froze. A profound stillness enveloped them all, as if the universe held its breath. And then Leah spoke, her voice low but steady. You don't understand, Emily. This isn't just about James. What do you mean? Emily's heart raced harder, the walls closing in. James isn't who you think he is, Leah continued, her words wrapping around Emily like a suffocating blanket. He's been feeding information all along. This isn't a war for survival. It's a setup. Emily's heart plummeted. What are you saying? And then, in a shocking twist that shattered everything, Leah continued, He's not your brother. Emotions swelled within her, a tumultuous storm. What? What do you mean he's not my brother? The son of a... Leah hesitated, her words hanging like a noose. The son of a man who ruined everything for him. He's been using you as a pawn. You're just a means to an end. It felt like the floor dropped away. Emily's breath caught in her throat. No, no. Suddenly, a dangerous glint sparked behind Leah's eyes. If you want to know the truth, Emily, you're going to have to make a decision. Right here, right now. Either you trust me or you stand with him. Emily's mind spun. All her beliefs, all her memories of James fractured like glass. The truth seemed like a poison, too bitter to swallow. Thunder rumbled outside, a furious echo of the storm brewing within her. Hearts were pounding, tension thick as fog. Had her brother been deceiving her all along? Or was there more to this tangled web than she could ever realize? As the weight of Leah's words sank in, she found herself standing at a crossroads, the very foundation of her world shifting beneath her feet. The question lingered painfully. Who could she trust now? As the room buzzed with tension, Emily's heart felt like it was stuck in her throat. James wasn't just her brother. He was now a dark figure of deceit. Leah's words echoed in her mind. She wanted to scream, but it couldn't be true, that she knew him. But every moment she held on to that belief felt like a fragile thread about to snap. Trust me, Em. James urged again, desperation dancing in his eyes. You don't know the whole story. But Leah was shaking her head, her eyes fierce. No more lies. It's time to show her. And just like that, the situation escalated. The loud beeping from Leah's device grew more frantic, piercing through the air like a siren. Emily felt her stomach churn. What had James gotten himself into? What would happen next? Suddenly, the front door burst open again. More police flooded in, guns drawn, faces hardened. "Drop your weapons!" they shouted. Chaos erupted. Officers shouted orders, and the intruders swarmed. The room became a cacophony of raised voices and scattered movements. Emily backed into the corner, panic surging. "Daniel! Jackson!" She could barely make sense of the commotion. But then, just as the officers were converging on the intruders, Leah pressed down on the device. A loud click echoed, and with it, the world around them seemed to freeze. The lights dimmed, shadows creeping. In like a suffocating fog, leaving nothing but despair in their wake. "What have you done?" James shouted, his voice lost in the tide of confusion. Leah's expression darkened. "I've activated the network. They'll find us, and there's nothing you can do." And then the unimaginable happened. At the center of all this chaos, a figure stepped forward. A tall man in a dark suit, face shrouded in shadows, knelt next to Daniel, who was still on the ground. "You shouldn't have gotten involved, Daniel," he said, voice smooth but dripping with malice. Emily's breath hitched. She could barely process what was happening. "Who are you?" she gasped. The man looked up, eyes glinting like polished stones. "I'm the one who controls the EM," he replied coolly. "And you, Emily, are more valuable than you realize." "Valuable? For what?" she countered, trembling. The man smirked. "Your brother's past ties, his secrets, make you a key player in a game of power. Something neither of you could have imagined." And then, in a shocking twist, he turned to James. "You thought you were free? You thought you could leave us behind?" His voice lowered, menacing. "You still owe us." James stood there, jaw clenched, but panic flickered across his features. "No, I'm done with that life, I swear." The man laughed, cold and chilling. "You're in deep waters, James. You can't escape what you've done." Emily's heart raced. Could it be true? Was everything she thought she knew about James unraveling like a loose thread? But then, without warning, her phone buzzed violently against her side. She pulled it out, eyes widening. A message flashed across the screen. "Your brother is in danger. Get out now." What? Her mind spun. She looked around the chaotic room, panic rising within her. "Who sent this?" "Don't trust it," shouted Jackson, eyes darting. But it was too late. The man in the suit took a step closer, his grin growing slick. "Get her," he ordered, eyes trained on Emily. "No!" she screamed, backing away. But before she could react, hands were on her, gripping her tightly. In that instant, everything shifted again. A blinding light erupted from the device Leah held, engulfing the room. A shockwave that sent everyone reeling. As the light faded, the air grew still. Emily blinked, trying to adjust, but now she was surrounded by silence. The chaos had vanished, as if someone had pressed pause on the world. In the eerie stillness, she stood there, heart racing, confusion boiling, and the shocking realization settled like a stone in her chest. It felt like something had changed forever. "Where is everyone?" she murmured, looking around. What just happened? And in the quiet shadows, An unsettling thought clawed at her mind. Had she really just stumbled into something darker than she ever imagined? Had the true game only just begun? Emily blinked, the silence stretching around her like a heavy blanket. Her heart pounded in her chest as the dim room wrapped around her, shadows flickering back to life. Where was everyone? What had just happened? "Daniel!" she called out, panic gripping her voice. "Jackson! Can anyone hear me?" But the silence swallowed her words whole. Suddenly, the air around her crackled. A low humming filled the room, vibrations tingling against her skin. The device Leah had held flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows on the wall. Just then, the walls seemed to warp, a strange shimmer distorting reality. Without warning, a blinding flash erupted again, consuming everything. Emily stumbled backward, the brightness overwhelming. She squeezed her eyes shut, her hands shoot out to steady herself against the wall, heart racing like a stampede. When the light finally faded, she opened her eyes slowly. But the room was different. Or maybe she was. Dread pulsed, a cold knot coiling in her stomach. There were no police, no fighting. There was only emptiness. Then she heard a soft whisper from behind her. "Emily." Her heart seized. She turned sharply, breath catching. There, standing just a foot away, was a familiar figure. Her mother. "Mom?" She blinked, confusion blending with disbelief. Her mother, long thought gone, stood right there before her, as if stepping out of a dream. How are you here?" Tears pooled in her mother's eyes, reflecting a sorrow that felt all too real. "You have to listen to me." Her voice trembled, raw with hidden pain. "What's going on? Where's James? Where's Daniel?" Emily felt dizzy, the world tilting beneath her. "James is not who you think he is," her mother exclaimed, desperation lacing her words. "He's been lying to you, Emily. Everything he's told you is a facade, a trap." Emily's heart fell. "What do you mean? How can he be lying?" "Because I know the truth," her mother insisted, stepping closer, urgency burning in her gaze. "He's not your brother. He's the son of the man who took everything from me." The weight of her mother's words slammed into Emily like a freight train. No, that can't be true. But deep down, a creeping doubt slithered into her mind. The fragments of James's past, the shadowy hints, it all made a sickening sense now. Her pulse quickened. "What did he take?" Tears rolled down her mother's cheeks. "My life. Your life. He's at the center of a web you don't even see yet. All this chaos, it was designed to pull you in." "Why didn't you tell me?" Emily's voice cracked. "Why did you leave me?" A shudder ran through her mother. "To protect you. I thought you'd be safe away from all of this." Before Emily could process, the walls around them began to tremble. The ground shook, a deep rumbling reverberating through the floor. Her heart raced. Something was coming. "Mom!" she cried, panic rising. "We have to get out!" But her mother shook her head, sorrow deepening in her eyes. "It's too late. They'll find you, Emily, and they won't stop until they have you." "What do you mean?" The words slipped from her lips, barely above a whisper. Suddenly, the air erupted with noise. Voices echoed, shadows danced in a frenzy. The door slammed open, and there they were. Shadows, dark figures spilling into the room, eyes glowing with malicious intent. "No!" Emily gasped, racing backward, instinct kicking in. "Emily!" one of the figures shouted, voice chillingly familiar. It was James. In that heart-stopping moment, confusion raged inside her. All her life, she thought she knew this man. Her brother, her only link to family. But there, with a twisted smile on his face, he looked nothing like the boy she grew up imagining. "Mom," she stammered, her heart racing. "You said he's—" The truth sat on the edge of her tongue, thick with bitter fear. "Get away from her!" James yelled, but his tone held an edge that felt more threatening than protective. The fear tightened her throat as realization hit with force. Everything she believed was a lie. What if she was not the pawn, but the prize? What if the game was about to begin? And then it happened. The room burst into chaos again. Shadows lunging, screams erupting, and in the haunting din, Emily understood one thing. Their lives were intertwined in a way she had never imagined. As she stood there, faced with the truth and the darkness, one question spiraled. In her mind, what was she truly fighting for? Emily's heart raced as shadows loomed, the chilling realization of betrayal tightening its grip. James's posture screamed alarm, while his menacing smirk seemed to mock her life, her choices. The chaos surged around her, figures lunging, shouting, as her head spun in confusion. The reality she clung to felt as fragile as glass, ready to shatter. "Get away from her!" James roared, the intensity of his voice shaking the air. Once, that commanding tone had made her feel safe. Now it felt like a warning. "Stop!" Leah shouted, raising the device again, its pulsating light reflecting off her frantic face. "You don't know what you're doing, James. This isn't just about you anymore." Air crackled with tension, swirling with unspoken words. Emily's thoughts raced, arms trembling as the weight of what she'd learned crushed her insides. Just then, she heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate. They echoed through the dim room, growing louder, and her breath hitched. Who was coming now? Out of the shadows emerged a tall figure, backlit by flickering lights. A man she recognized but had never met. He wore a suit, his features sharp and cold, eyes piercing through the chaos. Arthur, the man her mother had warned her about. "Emily," he said with a chilling calm, almost mocking. "I'm so glad you're here. You have so much potential." "Potential?" Emily gasped, confusion twisting her stomach in. Stepping closer, the shadows dancing around him like a predator sizing up its prey. "Right where you should be, Emily. The prize in this game." "Prize? What game?" she cried, desperation spilling over. "What do you want from me?" "Everything," he replied, voice dripping with a sinister promise. But before she could respond, the device in Leah's hands began to beep faster. The lights dimmed again, a flicker of something ominous in the air. And suddenly, everything exploded. A deafening boom resonated through the space, and a blinding flash enveloped them. Emily shielded her eyes, fear clawing at her throat. In that split second, she felt a wave of heat wash over her, as though the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. When the light faded, everything was turned upside down. The room collapsed into an eerie stillness. Emily slowly opened her eyes to a chilling sight. The air felt heavy, thick with expectation. Shadows from moments ago morphed into something darker. She felt an unsettling tug inside her, a bond she couldn't explain. A family reunion, Arthur smirked, but his voice was quaking. Emily blinked, heart racing as she processed the scene. She wasn't where she had been. She was somewhere else, somewhere familiar. She stood in an old, haunting house, the very one she had long buried in her mind. A childhood home she thought lost to time. And there, amidst the shadows, stood figures she recognized, but had not seen in years. Surprise! A voice sliced through the quiet, sharp as glass. It was familiar, haunting, her mother. What? Emily gasped, disbelief flooding her. And there, beside her mother, stood a man she never expected. Daniel. His eyes were wide, fear striking deep. Daniel? She croaked, shock driving her heart into a frantic rhythm. What's happening? He didn't respond. Instead, he took a step forward, panic in his expression. You shouldn't be here. What are you talking about? She yelled, confusion and horror clawing at her. But then he turned, pointing at a dusty photograph on the wall. Your past isn't what you think it is. Emily rushed forward, heart thundering. The photograph showed a woman with a familiar face and a man with strikingly similar features to James. A chill coursed down her spine. No, it can't be. It can, Daniel's voice trembled, each word cutting deep. James isn't your brother. He's your twin. The world spun, the truth crashing over her like a tidal wave. What? No! How could this be? Because it's all tangled together, Daniel continued, shaking. Your mother hid it from everyone. Her mother stepped closer, trembling. Emily, but she couldn't listen. The cacophony of realizations roiling within her. You lied? The room blurred as Emily's vision clouded, her mind racing. Everything she thought she understood came crashing down, unraveling like frayed threads. How could she trust any of them? In that shocking moment, the door opened once more. More figures flooded in, intruders, police, chaos. And then she felt it, the heaviness of truth pressing down, a weight that threatened to crush her as revelations intertwined. Run! Daniel shouted, grabbing her hand. But Emily was frozen, the truth slashing through her heart like a dagger. No! I need to know! But before she could respond, the world around her exploded again. The blinding light returned, suffocating, and in the swirling chaos, one question echoed in her mind. What kind of game was this? How many secrets were hidden in the shadows? In that pregnant pause, she realized everything had changed. And just like that, the narrative of her life began anew. But what would she uncover in this twisted reality? The light dimmed, and the chaos around Emily exploded with renewed urgency. She stood in the familiar setting of her childhood home, facing not only shadows of the past, but those of the people she thought she knew. Confusion and betrayal churned within her, a storm raging in her heart. Mom, she said, voice trembling as the weight of truth crashed over her like a cold wave. You let me believe he was my brother. Her mother's eyes glistened with regret. "I wanted to protect you," she said softly, a pain evident in her voice. "But the truth is dangerous. It's why we're here." The intruders pressed closer, ominous figures with intentions that sent shivers down Emily's spine. James, or the man she had thought was? Her brother stood defiantly, words caught in his throat, as if he were battling his own demons. He looked torn between the truth and a facade he had built around himself. "You don't understand, Em," James shouted, anguish breaking through his cold veneer. "This was never supposed to be your fight." "But it is. It has always been." Emily's voice shattered the silence. "You dragged me into this chaos, thinking I wouldn't notice the lies?" Just then, the front door burst open again, and a surge of new officers stormed in, guns drawn. "Everyone freeze!" they shouted, the authority in their voices commanding the room's attention. Caught in a moment of electrical tension, the intruders paused. Daniel worked his way to Emily's side, eyes bright, with a mix of fear and determination. "We have to go," he urged desperately. "Now." But instead of fleeing, something within Emily ignited. "No more hiding! I need to know what you've done, James." Her words boomed, gaining strength from every ounce of hurt she felt. The tension thickened, and for a moment, the room held its breath. Shadows and light mingled in a chaotic dance. James took a sharp breath, his facade peeling away. "Fine, I'll tell you. But you need to trust me." She shook her head, the lump in her throat making it hard to breathe. "How can I trust you? You've only given me deception." The faces around her shook with uncertainty. Everyone seemed torn between action and inaction. The device Leah held pulsed ominously in the chaos, a dark reminder of the turmoil coursing through their lives. "Let's end this!" Leah shouted, stepping forward, her voice a blade slicing through the confusion. "James, tell her the truth!" With desperation, James turned to Emily, his expression crumpling. "I never wanted this. I was born into a world of crime, a world where secrets are everything. I thought I could escape it. I thought you'd be safe. But now they're coming for all of us. What have you done?" Emily demanded, her voice shaking, not just with fear, but with the sharp flash of anger. With a grimace, he continued, "I was meant to take the fall for a crime I didn't commit. I thought if I could lay low, if I could be just a farmer, I could keep you out of it." Tears streamed down her cheeks. Every memory, every laugh shared felt tainted now, twisted in a brutal game she never wanted to play. "You don't get to play the victim," she cried, feeling the walls closing in. And then Arthur stepped forward, voice calm but threatening. "Enough of this family drama. You want the truth? Here it is. There are forces at play you cannot comprehend, and you're about to be caught in the crossfire." The weight of his words echoed in Emily's mind. Could she break free from this darkness? Could she piece together her life amidst the lies? Suddenly, an officer yelled, "Get down!" as chaos erupted again. Shots rang out, leaving everyone scrambling for cover. James turned to Emily, eyes wide with panic. "Emily, we need to go. Take my hand." In that moment, her heart raced. Could she really trust him? She remembered the bond they shared, those fleeting moments of laughter, now buried under layers of deceit. But then she thought of Daniel, her friend, the loyalty sparkling in his eyes. He had always been by her side. "No!" Emily shouted, looking between the two. "I won't be your pawn anymore. I choose to stand on my own." As sirens blared in the distance, a fierce determination settled deep within her. She was done with the shadows. She would carve her path in the light. The chaos boiled around her, but in the eye of the storm, she found clarity. "This ends now. I will uncover the truth and break the cycle." With a newfound strength, she bolted toward the door, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Behind her, she could hear the tumult still raging, the promises of betrayal and deception echoing through the hallways. As she rushed out, a fleeting thought danced through her mind. Maybe this was just the beginning. You need to subscribe now to this channel to catch the exclusive stories unfolding. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the ending. What comes next for Emily? And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners, and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now.